The first truck arrived on a Monday morning. I was on the porch, nursing a second cup of coffee and trying to remember if I'd ordered anything, when a massive Ford F-350, the kind that seems to swallow light, crunched its way up my long, gravel driveway. It wasn't lost. Vehicles didn't end up here by accident. My 70 acres of mixed hardwood forest and overgrown pasture were at the dead end of a county road, a pocket of beautiful, buzzing silence in a world increasingly full of noise. I watched, the ceramic mug warm in my hands, as two men in identical gray work shirts emblazoned with Summit Landscaping and Design climbed out. They consulted a tablet, looked at the towering oak that marked the property's heart, then started unloading industrial-grade brush cutters. A cold, sharp feeling, distinct from the autumn chill, settled in my gut. I set the coffee down. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" My voice carried across the clearing, louder than I'd intended. The taller one, a guy with a sun-reddened neck and a crew cut, offered a professional smile. "Morning, sir. We're here for the Creekside Clearing and Retention Pond project. Survey and initial clearing." "There's no project here," I said, walking slowly down the porch steps. "You're on private property." The smile didn't falter, it just became patronizing. "We have the work order right here. Client is the HOA Maple Woods Community Association. For parcel, let's see," he squinted at the tablet. "Parcel Gamma-7. This is Gamma-7, right? Belongs to the association." The cold feeling turned to a hot, swift rush of understanding. Gamma-7. The bureaucratic, dehumanizing designation the Maple Woods Homeowners Association had assigned my land in their endless memos and violation notices. My name was Elias Vance. This was Vance Farm, or what was left of it. My grandfather had bought it, my father had been born in the very house behind me, and I had moved back a year ago, after the life I'd built in the city had spectacularly collapsed. This land was my suture, my sanity. "The HOA does not own this parcel," I said, my voice carefully level. "I own it. Individually. My property is adjacent to Maple Woods, but I am not, and never have been, a member of your association." The second worker, younger and quieter, shifted his weight. Crew-cut smile finally vanished, replaced by bureaucratic confusion. "Ma'am, sir, the paperwork is clear. The board president, a Mrs. Karen Pellingham, signed off on this. She said it was common land that needed remediation. Showed us the plat maps and everything." Karen Pellingham. Of course. The name was a recurring refrain in the letters that arrived in my mailbox, always printed on the HOA's cream-colored, embossed stationery. Letters about unsightly vegetative overgrowth, potential fire hazard from fallen timber, and the perennial favorite, non-conforming aesthetic detriment to community values. She'd even door-knocked once, a perfectly coiffed woman in athleisure wear, smelling of coconut sunscreen and unearned authority, to discuss the possibility of a voluntary annexation. I politely, firmly, shown her the surveyor's report from 1952 and closed the door. "Mrs. Pellingham has no authority here," I said. "You are trespassing. I need you to pack up your equipment and leave. Now." A brief, tense standoff followed. Crew-cut made a call, speaking in low, urgent tones. I heard the words, assured us it was fine, and "guy says it's his." He hung up, frustration evident. "Look, Mr. Vance, is it? Our company has a signed contract with the Maple Woods HOA. We're just here to do the job we were hired for. If there's a dispute, you need to take it up with them. We've already mobilized, we're on the clock." "The dispute," I said, feeling the first tremor of real anger, "is that you are on my land without my permission. The contract you have is invalid. If you proceed, you will be committing criminal trespass and will be liable for any damages." The younger worker looked nervously at his partner. Crew-cut sighed, a man caught between a rock and a hard place, deciding the rock, his paying client, was more solid. "We'll just do the initial survey. That's non-invasive. Then we'll sort this out." He nodded to his partner, and they turned, firing up the brush cutters. The mechanical snarl ripped through the morning peace. It was the sound of absolute wrongness. They took 5 steps towards the wildflower border near the old creek bed, a border my mother had planted 40 years ago, now a riot of late-blooming goldenrod and asters. "Stop!" I shouted, but the roar of the engines drowned me out. I didn't run inside to call the sheriff. I knew how that would go, a long response time, a deputy sympathetic but citing a civil matter, a stop work order that would take hours or days. The damage would be done. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in 20 years. I walked to my shed, unlocked it, and shouldered my old digital camera, a professional relic from my former life as an architectural photographer. Then I grabbed the leather-bound notebook and pen from my porch table. I approached them, not shouting anymore, but moving with a purposeful calm. I began taking pictures. Close-ups of their company logos, their license plate, their faces. They flinched, turning away, the pristine state of the wildflower border and the ancient dogwood just beyond it. I noted the time, date, and temperature in my book. I wrote down their every action. Crew cut killed his engine. What are you doing? Documenting the tort, I said, not looking up from my notebook. Please continue. Your actions, and your employer's liability, are accruing by the minute. The legal language felt strange on my tongue, but it was the language of consequences. He paled slightly. The word liability had a focusing effect. After another hissed conversation on the phone, they finally, grudgingly, loaded their equipment. This isn't over, Crew Cut said, pointing a finger at me. The HOA is going to hear about this. Please ensure they do, I replied, still scribbling. And give Mrs. Pellingham my regards. They left, spraying gravel. The silence that rushed back and felt wounded, fragile. I walked to the wildflower border. They hadn't cut anything, but the thick-treaded tires of the F-350 had left deep, gouging ruts in the soft earth, crushing a swath of asters into the mud. The physical violation was small, but it was a breach. A line had been crossed, not just on the land, but in principle. That afternoon, I drafted an invoice. It wasn't a scream of rage, it was a cold, precise instrument. At the top, my letterhead, Elias Vance, Vance Farm. Addressed to Summit Landscaping and Design, and the Maple Woods Community Association, care of Karen Pellingham, President. Item 1, unlawful entry and trespass on private property. Fee, $500. Item 2, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Fee, $750. Item 3, property damage, soil compaction and destruction of native flora. Restoration cost, $1,200. Item 4, administrative fee, $300. Total due, $2,750 terms, net 7 days. After which, a 5% monthly late fee will be applied, and the matter will be referred to small claims court. All future unauthorized entry will be billed at $1,000 per incident, per person, per hour. I attached the clearest photos of the tire ruts and the crushed flowers. I made 2 copies, sent one via certified mail to Summit Landscaping, and walked the other down to the imposing, gate-guarded entrance of Maple Woods. The community was a pastel nightmare of McMansions, each lawn a perfect, chemical green carpet, each shrub sculpted into unnatural geometric shapes. The silence here was different, oppressive, sanitized. The HOA office was a quaint cottage that clashed with its authoritarian purpose. I dropped the invoice in the mail slot, a small, satisfying thunk in the quiet. The reaction was not slow in coming. 2 days later, an official HOA envelope arrived. Not a check, but a letter. On the cream-colored stationery, it read, Dear Mr. Vance, your recent communication is not only frivolous and without merit, but constitutes harassment. Parcel Gamma-7 has been designated as common area. Your claims of ownership are spurious. The minor disturbance is irrelevant. You are hereby ordered to cease and desist. Furthermore, your continued neglect is a violation. You have 14 days to clear all brush within 50 feet of the shared boundary or the HOA will perform the work and levy a lien. Sincerely, Karen Pellingham, President. Asterisk. I read it twice. The audacity was breathtaking. It was a masterpiece of projection, accusing me of the very acts she was committing. The reference to the 2005 plat was a bluff, a lie. My father had fought that annexation attempt 2 decades ago and won. But Karen Pellingham operated in a world where saying something made it true. She wasn't just a busybody. She was a bureaucrat with a fiefdom to protect. My wild, unbiddable land was a stain on her vision of perfect, controlled order. It was a personal affront. The war was now formalized. I framed her letter. Then I got to work. I hired a surveyor to restake the property line with fresh, orange-tipped posts and no trespassing signs. I installed a wildlife camera. I consulted a lawyer, Sarah Jenkins. She's banking on you being alone, overwhelmed, and eventually giving in, Sarah said. The send the contractors tactic is a classic HOA power play. They usually win through attrition. But their claim on your land is nonsense. The 2005 plat was rejected. It's a ghost document. She's lying, I said. Sarah nodded. Probably. But fighting it will cost you. I looked out at the forest. It's not about the money. Not anymore. It's about the line. Sarah smiled. Then we hold the line. But we do it smart. Every interaction, document. She's a bully. Bullies hate exposure. A week passed. The invoice went unpaid. On the 8th day, I filed in small claims court against both Summit Landscaping and the Maple Woods HOA. The filing fee was a small price to pay for the atomic reaction it provoked. Karen Pellingham's next move was social. The campaign to smear me began. I was now that unstable hermit, the bitter guy trying to scam the nice family community, an eco-terrorist. I learned this from Ben at the hardware store. She's got a mouth on her, Ben said. Said you threatened her workers with a gun. I felt a chill. I have never owned a gun. I do. But others don't. Be careful. The slander was a sign of desperation. The summons had rattled her. Then, the second incursion happened. A wildlife camera alert. A different truck, pulling a wood chipper, rolled past my signs. 2 men got out with chainsaws. They headed for the stand of mature paper birch trees that lined the creek. My father's white ladies. This was deliberate, punitive destruction. Anger, white-hot and purifying, flooded me. But I didn't run out screaming. I picked up my camera, my notebook, and my phone. I dialed 911 as I walked. I am reporting an active trespass and criminal mischief in progress. Attempting to cut down trees. I reached the crest as the first chainsaw coughed to life. I started recording. Stop what you are doing. You are on private property. The sheriff is on the way. One of the men, burly and bearded, shut off his saw. We got HOA permission. This is buffer zone clearing. This is not HOA land. You have passed 6 no trespassing signs. You are committing a crime. This is being recorded. The younger one looked uncertain. Beardy spat. Karen said you'd say that. She said to ignore you. Karen is about to be subpoenaed. And you are about to be arrested. The sound of a distant siren decided it. They panicked, killed the chainsaw, and ran, abandoning the wood chipper. Deputy Garcia took my statement. She examined the footage, the fresh gashes on a birch trunk. Do you know who hired them? The HOA President, Karen Pellingham, I said. Deputy Garcia's mouth set. Criminal trespass and attempted destruction of property. This is beyond a civil dispute. After she left, I sent a second invoice. Item 1, criminal trespass. Fee, $2,000. Item 2, attempted destruction of trees. Fee, $4,500. Item 3, storage of abandoned equipment, $200 per day. Item 4, legal escalation fee, $1,000. Total due, $7,700 terms, net 48 hours. Criminal charges will be pursued. I drove to the HOA office. Through the window, I saw Karen at a desk. I walked in. Both looked up. Karen's face contorted into disdain. You are not allowed here. And my land is my property, I said calmly. I placed the invoice on her desk. Your contractors attempted felony vandalism. The sheriff has the evidence. This invoice details your liability. The man with her, Chuck, VP, sputtered. This is outrageous. I can, and I have, I said, eyes locked on Karen. The hearing is in 10 days. Explain to a judge why you sent strangers to destroy my trees. Karen's composure cracked. The criminal element changed everything. This is harassment, she hissed. No. Harassment is what you've been doing. This is an invoice. Payment in 48 hours. The hearing was held. Karen arrived with a sleek lawyer and a thick binder. I had Sarah with a thin folder. The judge listened to the HOA lawyer drone on. Then Sarah stood. Your Honor, we have the deeds. The county plat shows Maple Woods ending here. Gamma-7 has no legal standing. We have the sheriff's report and photos. She placed the second report on the clerk's desk. Since filing, the defendant escalated. This details a second trespass, resulting in criminal charges. The judge peered at Karen. Is this true? The lawyer looked panicked. Karen leaned forward. That land is a blight. We acted for safety. He threatened us. Proof, the judge asked. He sent bills. Invoicing for alleged damages is not a threat, the judge said. He looked at the maps. The 2005 plat was never ratified. It is invalid. The property belongs to Mr. Vance. He turned to me. For the first incident, $500 for trespass stands. $1,200 for restoration is reasonable. Other fees dismissed. Damages of $1,700. It was a victory. However, the judge continued, voice hardening, the second incident is serious. I am issuing a permanent restraining order against the Maple Woods HOA, its board, agents, and contractors. You are forbidden from setting foot on his property or directing any action on it. Violation results in contempt. Understand? Karen looked slapped. Yes, Your Honor. Case closed. Outside, Sarah shook my hand. The restraining order is the real win. A wall. Karen stormed past, humiliated. I thought that was the end. I had judgment, restraining order, and the criminal case proceeded. For weeks, there was peace. Then, flyers appeared. Neon paper. Warning, dangerous recluse. Elias Vance harasses women, refuses fire safety, hoards land, under investigation. Safety first. A distorted snippet of the restraining order was attached. Ben called, livid. This is libel. I didn't write a rebuttal. I called Sarah and the Oak Haven Sentinel. A reporter, Anya, visited. I showed her everything. The border, the ruts, the gashed tree, the footage, the maps, the flyer. She claims you're a fire hazard, Anya said. I pointed to my dense, moist woodland. A fire here would be a miracle. I drove her to the ridge overlooking Maple Woods, brown lawns, flammable roofs. They're the hazard. My land is a firebreak. The story ran, the line in the dirt, a property dispute turns criminal. It quoted the judgment, cited reports, contrasted maps, described the tree, included the flyer. The effect was nuclear. Exposure was her kryptonite. The narrative flipped. Karen was the overzealous president trying to steal land. Rifts appeared. Chuck resigned. Summit Landscaping sued the HOA for non-payment, including my invoice as evidence. Besieged, Karen resigned. Winter deepened. Snow blanketed the land. I was at the border when a man trudged through the snow. He stopped short of my sign. Mr. Vance? I'm David, the new HOA president. He looked exhausted. We apologize. For everything. He held out an envelope and a check. A formal apology. Payment for the judgment. We drop all claims. The Gamma designation is purged. We want the noise to stop. I took them. The check was for $1,700. The apology letter repudiated the previous administration. The restraining order stays, I said. But I won't sue further unless it's breached. He nodded. Understood. He trudged back. I stood at the border. The victory felt quiet. I looked at the scar on the birch tree. It would remain. But the tree was alive. I walked back. The land was silent, whole, and mine. The line had been held. In my office, I placed the HOA's apology next to Karen's framed letter. 2 bookends. I filed away the second invoice. A relic. Outside, snow fell, covering tracks, blessing the quiet land with peace.